Bryce Laspisa was supposed to be driving home. Instead, his final known journey became a long, confusing stretch of delays, phone calls, strange pauses, and a crash site where everything was found except Bryce himself. This is what makes the case different from a simple car wreck. The mystery did not begin when the SUV went down the embankment. It began hours earlier, when Bryce seemed unable or unwilling to finish a drive that should have brought him back to his family. Bryce David Laspisa was 19 years old and attending Sierra College in Northern California. In August 2013, he was driving south toward his parents' home in Laguna Niguel, but the route home slowly turned into something no one around him could understand. Before he vanished, people close to Bryce reportedly noticed changes in his behavior. Public case summaries describe unusual decisions before the disappearance, including giving away personal belongings and breaking up with his girlfriend before the long drive south. By itself, a breakup or a strange mood does not explain a disappearance. But in Bryce's case, those details became part of a larger pattern, because the drive home did not unfold like a normal trip. At some point, Bryce ended up in the Buttonwillow area, where he ran out of gas and received roadside assistance. What made this strange was not only that he needed fuel, but that he reportedly stayed in the area for hours afterward instead of continuing home. His parents were worried and tried to understand why he was not making normal progress. To them, Bryce was not missing yet. He was still reachable, still talking, still close enough to reality that the situation felt frustrating rather than fatal. That is one of the most painful parts of the case. There was a period when everyone still believed the problem could be fixed by one more phone call, one more push to keep driving, one more decision to finally come home. A roadside worker reportedly checked on Bryce more than once, and law enforcement also became part of the timeline before the crash. Public summaries describe a welfare check in which no obvious reason was found to stop him from continuing. That detail is important because it shows how difficult the moment was to read. Bryce may have seemed strange, tired, or emotionally off, but not clearly dangerous enough to trigger the kind of intervention that might have changed the ending. Eventually, Bryce continued south. The drive from the Central Valley toward Southern California should have been simple compared with everything that had already happened, but the timeline still did not return to normal. Around 2 a.m., Bryce reportedly called his mother and said he was too tired to drive. He said he was going to stop, sleep, and call her when he woke up. Those words sound ordinary at first. A tired driver pulls over, rests, and continues later. In another version of the story, that call would have been remembered only as a responsible decision. But Bryce did not arrive home. A few hours later, his family learned that their Toyota Highlander had been found near Castaic Lake, overturned down an embankment. The crash scene was frightening, but it was also confusing. The vehicle was there, the belongings were there, but the person everyone was looking for was not. Inside the SUV, investigators found Bryce's phone, wallet, laptop, and other personal items. Those objects matter because they are the basic tools a person would normally need to call for help, identify himself, travel, or start over. The rear window had been broken or removed, and public summaries state that investigators believed Bryce likely exited through the back of the vehicle. That means the crash may not have killed him immediately, but it opens the most important question. Where did he go after getting out? One possibility is that Bryce was injured and disoriented after the crash. If he climbed out in shock, he may have walked away without understanding where he was, how badly he was hurt, or how dangerous the surrounding area could become. This theory feels realistic because people do strange things after traumatic impacts. A person can leave safety, ignore belongings, and move in the wrong direction simply because the brain is not processing the situation normally. But the theory has a major weakness. Searchers looked in the area around Castaic Lake, and no confirmed remains or physical trace publicly solved the case. Another theory is that Bryce intentionally walked away to disappear. This version points to the strange behavior before the crash, the long delays, the breakup, and the possibility that Bryce was emotionally overwhelmed. But voluntary disappearance becomes difficult when you look at what he left behind. His phone, wallet, laptop, and vehicle remained at the crash scene, making a planned new life far harder to imagine. Starting over requires more than leaving a road. It usually requires money, identification, communication, transportation, planning, and the ability to avoid every trace for years. There is also a theory that Bryce was in some kind of emotional or psychological crisis. This could explain why he delayed for hours, why he did not simply drive home, and why his decisions seemed to make less sense as the night went on. This theory may explain the road before the crash better than the crash after it. It tells us why he may have been acting strangely, but it still does not tell us where he went after leaving the SUV. A fourth possibility is that someone else encountered Bryce after the crash. If he was alive, injured, confused, and walking near a road or lake area, he would have been vulnerable to whoever happened to cross his path. This theory can explain the sudden silence, but it has no publicly confirmed anchor. No identified person, vehicle, witness, or recovered evidence has proven that someone took him from the area. The case is especially unsettling because it is not built around one clean unknown. There is the mystery of Bryce's state of mind, the mystery of the long stops, the mystery of the crash, and the mystery of what happened after he exited the vehicle. Each part affects the next. If Bryce was already in crisis, the crash may have been a consequence. If the crash was accidental, the disappearance may have been panic. If he met someone afterward, the earlier strange behavior may be only half the story. The Castaic Lake area matters because landscapes like that can be deceptive. From a distance, terrain near roads and water may look searchable, but hillsides, brush, ravines, shorelines, and hidden drops can make certainty difficult. If Bryce walked away injured, he could have moved into terrain that did not preserve an easy trail. If he entered water, thick brush, or a difficult slope, even a determined search might struggle to turn possibility into proof. But the absence of evidence cuts both ways. It supports the idea that he may have left the area, while also keeping open the possibility that the land hid him better than anyone expected. For Bryce's parents, the case is not an abstract mystery about a crashed car. It is the memory of a son who was still talking to them, still promising movement, still close enough to come home, until suddenly he was not. That emotional distance is brutal. One moment, a family is waiting for headlights in the driveway. The next, they are hearing that the vehicle has been found wrecked somewhere else. NamUs lists Bryce David Laspisa as missing from Castaic Lake, California, with the date of last contact connected to late August 2013. That official listing is simple, but the story behind it is anything but simple. The confirmed facts create a narrow but haunting frame. Bryce was driving home, delayed repeatedly, called his mother, crashed near Castaic Lake, left belongings behind, and disappeared without a confirmed trace. Everything beyond that has to be treated carefully. Theories about mental crisis, voluntary disappearance, accidental death, or foul play remain theories because no public evidence has turned one version into the final answer. The strangest part is that Bryce's journey seemed to keep stopping before the final stop. He stopped near Buttonwillow, stopped again in conversation, stopped to rest, and then the SUV stopped forever at the bottom of an embankment. But Bryce did not stop there, at least not in any way investigators could confirm. The vehicle stopped, the belongings stopped, the paper trail stopped, but Bryce himself vanished from the scene. That is why the case still holds attention. It feels like a road trip where the destination was home, but every mile seemed to pull Bryce farther away from the people waiting for him. The final question is not only why he crashed. It is why a young man who was still close enough to call home ended up leaving behind everything he needed, somewhere between a wrecked car and a lake that has never given back an answer.